Hi everyone, my name is Sylvain Castet and I'm the head of design at Telenav. That's the first time I'm doing a pre-recorded video session, and what you are about to see is probably the final version following multiple trial and errors, so hopefully everybody will understand my accent properly. Before even getting started, I would like to thank HMI for giving us an opportunity to present our vision today. I wish we could have done this in person, but remote video is obviously becoming the new normal, so let's do this. I'm going to share my screen. So today we're going to talk about infotainment system design and particularly user-centered design. I will walk you through our design principles and will introduce you to our next generation system while addressing the needs and challenges in the current industry. There are a lot of moving pieces here. The industry is evolving rapidly, and we are progressively moving from evolution to revolution. So what I will share with you throughout this presentation is our take on this and what we think the user should or could expect from a modern infotainment solution moving forward. Quick introduction about Telenav for those who haven't heard about us yet. We started in 1999 and we're the first to bring GPS navigation to mobile phones. Now we have almost 20 million vehicles equipped with our navigation system on the road, 10 million of which are connected cars. We are about to launch our first infotainment solution, and what you see on the screen is what we definitely stand for. Always start with the user, as we do not simply design feature or product, but we solve problem. And here is our design team at Telenav, at least some of them, as it all boils down to a simple principle. The strength of the team is each individual member. The strength of each member is the team. One of our advantages at Telenav is the multicultural diversity within our design team, with about 40 people originally from all around the globe. So this definitely gives us an edge when it comes to design experiences that not only matter, but also are thought through from a global perspective. We do believe that localized design itself is a design process and not a simple translation exercise. Going back to our team, we are divided between 4 design studios located in Santa Clara, Shanghai, Xi'an, and Cluj. Our pool of skill set goes from interaction to visual designers, including researchers and technical writers. I love this team. There is nothing, absolutely nothing we could achieve without that level of talented people, so I wanted to spend a minute to introduce them. And jumping to the core of today's topic, and what we see as one of the biggest challenges today, the majority of drivers integrate their life into the car like this. Not safe, not delightful. It ultimately raises a few questions. What should a user expect from a safe and intuitive infotainment solution a couple of years from now? How do we design and create a fluid and seamless in-car experience with a proactive system that anticipates your need? And most importantly, how do we create experiences tailored fit for multi-sensorial interaction model, leveraging not only touch, but also voice and gesture? Our perspective on this, personal automobiles need to provide more personal value to the customer. There are really only 2 fundamental things that we must have. Number 1, it must be safe to do in the car or made safe to do in the car. For example, we all understand that texting on your phone while driving is very unsafe. But if people are doing it anyway, can we make this user behavior safe through intelligent application, design, and technology? Secondly, what we build needs to delight users. What do I mean by this? Ultimately, a delightful experience is one that makes you feel happy. So of course, a feature or interaction must fundamentally satisfy the user needs and wants, but in this day and age, to be a competitive experience, it must also be beautiful and novel. So in response to these questions, and as part of our design-driven methodology when it comes to design and produce connected in-vehicle infotainment software, I will introduce you today to our core design principles. These principles are the guiding sentences that helps our teams to reach the purpose of our product while helping them to make meaningful design decisions. It falls down within 4 categories that we believe cover the essential needs when it comes to designing experiences that matter. It has to be visceral and delightful, functional and beautiful, unique, memorable, and most importantly, safe and experience focused. Starting with our first one, an infotainment system should create an immediate and positive emotional response from the user at the very first sight. It is important to create experiences relating to deep inward feeling rather than to the intellect. Also, the ultimate goal is to design features that sustain users' attention with a great mix of UI design and psychology to create a delightful mix of experience for the user. What I'm trying to do here is to take this principle and apply it to a comparison with a physical product design, as I think it helps connecting the dots. So first we can see a Hoover. That's a vacuum, which is, like in that particular context, a purely utilitarian device. It performs the task. That's about it. Then we have a Dyson. This one is visceral and beautiful. It's not about the basic functionality anymore, but how can we enhance the product design and create a device that the user wants to interact with? Ending up to the next level with a Roomba, where here it's delightful because it simplifies the user's life. Now, what does it mean when it comes to apply this principle towards user experience? If I had to compare it back to what we do, the idea is to go one step beyond a usable UX and beautiful UI and try to reach a point where a system or a feature can simplify your life and minimize the amount of work required from the user. That's the only way to reach a delightful point. It has to simplify your life and create delight. Functional and beautiful. This one seems logical and fairly straightforward. The idea is like, look at what we've made. Beautiful, right? But does it work? And for whom does it work? The challenge is to marry beautiful design and form and functionality to create an intuitive and stunning solution. Functional design describes product that works well to perform their assigned task. In our case, balance, contrast, rhythm, space, color, typography, shapes, all of these are key components to create a beautiful and visually delightful experience. Similar than earlier, let's take a physical product approach to illustrate this particular principle. Here you have a traditional old potato peeler. Nothing fancy, but it performs the task as expected. And then you have a much more interesting version, thought through not only from a form and functionality perspective, but also from a physical and emotional perspective. We like to remind that people are seeking out products that are not just simple to use, but also a joy to use. The idea here is that we can think about creating beautiful experiences without affecting the form and functionality. Creating some kind of an emotional connection with the user, that's exactly what we try to do. In our case, we want to leverage the overall UI and treat it as an extension of your car interior to translate the finesse and the elegance of a particular brand within the overall digital experience. It has to be unique and memorable. Overall, simplicity is key when it comes to memorability. People judge an experience largely based on how they felt at its peak and at its end. So we want to provide a memorable solution with emotional power that passes the memory test. Oh yeah, I remember, that's this system with the... So as a general rule, we do believe that people won't always remember what you said to them, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. Following the same model that we did earlier, here you can see a classic unboxing experience. It serves the purpose, but that's about it. However, here we can see that Apple is bringing the unboxing experience itself to another level. At the very get-go, there is a sense of luxury, a sense of caring, starting from welcome messages translated based on your market or location. Then you see the device, and underneath the accessories, and then the wires perfectly fitting within 3 perfect die cut. Similarly, when we think about first-time user experience in a car, every pieces and parts of the UX and UI should be memorable. including the mere act of powering up the system. You should feel connected and oriented right away. It should make you feel special, it should be special, and it should be memorable. All of this right from the start. When it comes to digital experiences, FTUE is the perfect example. The onboarding process is as important as the overall system experience itself. And last but not least, safe and experience focused. We need to create a safe experience that delights, surprises, and has a sense of place in the context of driving. Safety guidelines, NHTSA for example, integrated into all design principles are a crucial part of what we define as a successful product, as the reduction of risk and distraction will ultimately help to deliver safer vehicles. We also need to design multi-sensory experiences that considers user perspective throughout the design process and favorizing the aesthetic of interaction between the user and the device. We want to offer a solution that falls into place naturally and instinctively, leveraging every interaction model, including touch, but also gesture and voice. So we talked about a few things here. We talked about visceral and delightful, functional and beautiful, unique, memorable, safe, experience focused. When my team and I looked at it, we were trying to figure out how to put this into practices. What should be the perfect blend to marry all these principles into a simple and yet intuitive solution. We came up with a smart ecosystem, a modular, contextual, proactive solution that anticipates your needs. And then we gave it a name and a personality. So meet Eve. Eve is smart. It's an AI component. It powers the system. Eve understands you and is a part of you. She's modular. She's always learning. She reads your gesture and visual cues and makes your in-car experience fluid and seamless. What I'm about to show you next is a prototype that will basically, translate this into something more tangible and visual. So here you can see Eve, powered on a 13-inch portrait display. We created a virtual prototype for this presentation in order to give you a quick overview as it's still under development and testing phase. A few key factors here. Eve is modular. Think about it as an open canvas with no boundaries, a smart and contextual approach, removing the traditional system bar and dashboard menu. Instead, what you get is a smart app ecosystem with contextual recommendation, triage based on frequency of use. It's completely tailored fit to a particular user, and it's contextual based on the time of the day. Every app appears in order of preferences. You can see your navigation app first. It's already triggered, it started, it's an active nav, it's based on a predictive destination mechanism. You get your music Spotify that is already started. It's, again, tuned with your favorite, artist and playlist. Everything is preset. You can see your favorite coffee from your favorite vendor. Everything is suggested. We leverage personalized data, phone integration, connected application, car learning behavior, all of this happening in the backend, translated into a friction-free, seamless experience that requires little to none effort from the user. So let me show you a little bit how it works. Here I can see my nav, my Spotify, and then my calendar is already synced. My commerce application, as I mentioned, already suggests me that I could eventually order a blue bottle latte because this is what I usually order during that particular time of the day. I have my radio station tuned, my podcast is ready, my phone is synced. So now at this point, I do not need to have a traditional menu because all the apps are surfacing naturally on this open canvas. Now what happened, this is like I can tap the navigation and I will find myself in a nice and large, portrait screen, full display. And then you can see your map. What is very particular in the way we are tackling the navigation piece in this concept is we removed this idea of box and volumes. So really you see the set of information, next turn, like estimate time of arrival and so on. All those informations are like laid out on top of like the map in a very typographic fashion. You can see everything is very visible. You have a full screen. It's operating. Now, what you could decide is that you don't necessarily want to use a full screen, and maybe you just want to split it. If that's the case, you just have to take, action on the little cursor on the bottom and then drag it up, and now you have a split screen. What I can do is I can also drag it back down and go back to a full screen. So now let's following the same example. Okay, I'm going split screen. I'm going to populate, my Spotify and opening up the current artist. Now I can decide, maybe I don't want to have a split screen. Maybe I want to have a 2/3, 1/3 type of situation. If that's the case, I just have to drag it down. So it responsively, adjusts. It's very adaptive. It's very smooth. If I want to completely remove it because I want to switch to full navigation, I just need to drag it down and I bring it back up like the way I want it. Now, if I want to change the volume, I have a smart shortcut bar on the bottom. So here you can see, you can control the temperature of your car. You can control the fan intensity, the volume, and so on. So here, if I want to change the volume or act upon the level, I just need to touch it and then drag my finger along. I can close it, and then going back to the same model, I can continue to interact with my screen. If I want to act upon any of the car control functionality, I have a little lip on the bottom. I can drag it up, and now I access the full car control domain. It gives me like a set of different options depending on the domain that I want to act upon. And then, for example, here it's the exterior, section. I have a beautiful rendering of the car. You can control the wipers, lights, locks, windows, mirrors. And then if I want to now take action on the seating side, and then I can press the seat domain. Now I can see a rendering of my seat with like a rendering of the dashboard and the steering wheel. Obviously, we are on the driver mode. Now I can also switch to the passenger seat, and then I can, use those little, touch points to adjust, the positioning of the different components. I can also, act upon the lighting, ambient lighting, alarm, and so on. And I can go back to, my exterior. I can drag it down, or I can also tap outside of the area to collapse it. Going back here, I can go back to my general menu. I can also completely collapse it, go back to the first layer menu here, and then just open up my Spotify playlist. So as you can see, it's a very flexible system. It's very modular. It's friction-free. It's not built on a regular templatized screen. You basically have the power to kind of like frame it and then move it and adjust it, based on how you feel or how big you want to have, each component, working together. Giving you a little bit of a round more here so you can. So now I think, remember one of the key principles that we talked about earlier was it has to be delightful. So, the particularity of the system is that, everything is there. You do not have to, think about anything. It's already thought through and suggested. So it is easy to read, easy to scan, easy to remember, as the topography of the layout is built in a clean and linear fashion. The grid is obvious. It falls into place. It's quickly glanceable. The fonts are big and large, following, the NHTSA recommendations. And we also follow a particular set of typography classification and hierarchy, and this helps us to enhance the overall readability. It's visceral, and most importantly, it's automatically tailored fit to the user. It's completely customized and completely personalized to the driver. I wish I could have shown you more today, but I think, this gives you a good sense of what we are working on, and then the approach that we are taking when it comes to design the next generation infotainment system. Okay, then I will close this presentation with a quote from Henry Ford. Coming together is the beginning, keeping together is progress, working together is success. We would love to hear from you, hear your thoughts, comments, and then use this HMI forum to populate ideas while combining our brain to come up as a group with what we could or should see as the next generation in-car system. Thank you very much again, and I hope we get a chance to talk more soon.
So thank you very much for the presentation. We had some really interesting questions come through. So just to, start with those. What does EVE stand for? A little bit more.
Yeah, so there is a little bit of background here. So EVE stands as of today for Electric Vehicle and Emotion. Now the story behind it, we started to work on EVE throughout a pillar-to-pillar display project, and we were thinking about it as part of an electric vehicle. But really, the emotion attribute is what we were shooting for, and then ultimately, we think this is what was missing in today's car ecosystem. Obviously, it's not only dedicated to electric vehicles today, but more for any vehicles. It basically represents the next generation of mobility, and it kind of translates into an organic AI component that basically is powering your infotainment system.
Perfect. And what sort of role does AI play within EVE?
So EVE is basically like like I said, it's an AI component, right? She's basically the heart and soul of your vehicle. So maybe I can show you an example. So I'm going to share my screen.
Yes, please. That would be helpful.
Here. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Perfectly. Yeah.
Okay. So that's a good example where you can see here and EVE and then how she connects with you. So the idea is like this AI component breaks down the boundaries between domains. So you can see on the bottom left side, it's a very fluid organic component. It basically adjusts to the pace of the driver, the colorimetry, and then also the pace of the motion is driven by your health status and then your heart pulsing, right? So the idea is like EVE is leveraging and then linking all the features together in order to create a cohesive and seamless experience on any case. So earlier in the presentation we talked about multi-sensorial experiences beyond touch. So here what you can see is how EVE is instinctively and then contextually solving problem while simplifying your life by proposing you a seamless end-to-end experience on a very simple scenario. So let's say here you can see on the right side of the screen, let's say the user is starting the car and instantly EVE starts interacting with them. For example, EVE can detect that it's the user aunt's birthday, and with a combination of calendar integration and phone call history scanning, she's proactively communicating with the user. So it's, I can see it's your aunt's birthday and it looks like you haven't called her yet. Would you like to send flower? So at this point, EVE is able to naturally recall the recipient address from the phone contact. Then she connects with our in-car commerce module. We're proposing you a few options when it comes to, flowers or location. And like from there, the user just need to pick, one option. Then the system is suggesting to record a message with the flowers. There is a recording module that is triggered. The order is confirmed, shipped, payment is handled. Everything is seamless and then it's done. So, what you can see is a perfect example of a full integration within multiple features as it integrates, phone and calendar integration, phone call screening, contextual suggestion, in-car commerce, and so on. And I think most importantly, you can see how EVE adds instantly value, not only to the in-car experience, but to your life itself. And then all of this happens in a very seamless fashion. It requires little to no effort from the user. and it's done in a very safe manner, as the experience is pretty much entirely supported through voice.
Okay, and what is your favorite feature?
So there is another thing that I could eventually show you. I mean, it wasn't necessarily prepared, but I will have to show you. I think it brings the point across again. That's another example where here you can see how the concept behind it. We are rethinking, the feature topography. We want to have a friction-free system. We were thinking, okay, how can we redesign audio, for example? How can we remove any friction point, any touching point, so you don't have to access through a menu, through a specific button, but you can see on the screen. You just have to move your hand, around, the screen without having to touch, and then we leverage gesture to be able to, basically swipe from your current music and then your playlist, and so the idea is like it doesn't require touch. Again, we try to think this in a safety, matter, and then we also try to reinvent the system to remove any friction point throughout the interaction with a particular feature.
Perfect. And what do you believe is going to be the next big thing in automotive user experience and HMI technologies?
That's either. No, to be serious, I think the pivot, from bi-directional communication tool towards an extension of your life, an app ecosystem, that would probably be my take. I think your car should not only be a locomotion element, used to transfer you from point A to point B, but it should be a delightful experience, playing an integral part in your journey. So I like to see it as a personal assistant, if you will, that can transfer you between point A and point B. But really, the idea is to push the envelope to see how can we add value beyond, the driving use case itself. I think one thing that I want to reemphasize is the fact that an important aspect of it is it's the flexibility when it comes to integrated to in-car. We worked and thought through a solution that is entirely adaptable to any existing system or any existing vehicle. So I think like the adaptive aspect of it, and then the fact that we can deploy it to any basic car, right, is really like the value that we also see in it.
Perfect. And in your opinion, what is the most challenging part of the HMI? What is the most challenging part of the process in developing automotive HMI?
Oh, well, without a doubt, it's to be able to design a solution that is innovative, meaningful, but while considering, the safety guidelines for sure. It has to be safe to do in the car. So I mentioned it earlier in the presentation. I think the biggest challenge for us is to be able to marry a beautiful and elegant interface, meaningful user experience, all together in the context of driving, which is very important, right? We want to make sure, we minimize the amount of time that you spend glancing away from the road. So really, that's why it has to be very intuitive. And it has to leverage, multi-sensory experiences, right? We cannot rely on touch anymore. It's, we want to make sure, the focus is on the road, and then the system is doing the rest.
Perfect. Well, those are the questions that I had initially. I want to thank you again for the presentation, and the presentation will be available after the event for the people to be able to watch that as well. So if people have any more questions, where can they find you?
I'll provide my email address at the end slide. It's sylvainc@telenav.com, and as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, we want to make it an open conversation. I think your forum is amazing. You have a lot of professionals from the industry. I believe group thinking is what will help us to design what comes next. So really, I mean, if people want to throw out ideas out there, and then have a conversation with us, to think, okay, what could we do? What could we change? What could we do differently? I think the combination of all the brain is what will help us to ultimately design the next generation system in terms of entertainment for sure.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, and the next presentation will commence shortly.
Thank you. Bye bye, Kevin.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Bye. And if you want to contact us, here is the email address. This is me, sylvainc@telenav.com. Thank you very much. Goodbye.